Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to MLS Listings Live, our show that is designed for Michelle to get information into the hands of our subscribers that they in turn can use out in their real world. And in this case, to understand not only the local marketplace or help explain the local marketplace, but really take a look at a national level down to a regional level. And so our good doctor's time is incredibly valuable today. So I'm going to kick it over to you and let you take it from here.
Great. Well, we're so excited to have you, Dr. Eisenberg. I know I always say that, and then you say, call me Elliot. And we're sound like we're best friends, which is always great. But we're so happy to have you. As you know, I cannot be forward looking. So Tom and myself and our Aculist team, we can report data, and we sure do a lot of it, but we can't really put in some of that information about, things that really affect the housing market. So we're so glad to have you to come on today and talk to us and answer a few questions from the crowd. But I have to start off by saying that, man, did you get 2021 or what? I mean, I know we're not quite done here, but Mark and I talk about it all the time. You nailed it. Talking about a return to the pretty normal sales cycle, right? Coming out of last year, we just didn't know it was going to happen. Talking about prices coming back and exceeding, current prices. And I think you even said, this will be volume-wise a big year. And we were all excited and nervous at the same time. But man, you got that right. In terms of, your thoughts on how we finished out this year and maybe a good starting point to what you see, just highlights from the beginning of next year. Any thoughts to get us started?
I'll share a couple. So there are a couple estimates out there of what prices will do in 2022. And the price estimates range from different firms like CoreLogic and Goldman Sachs and so on. They range from 2% to 18% next year. So you can say anything you want and it's plausible, it's reasonable. Objectively, I think we come down from where we've been. The growth rates we've experienced in house price appreciation have been really stunning. And I would fully expect them to slow down. They're not going to go backwards. No, but they will grow more slowly. Incomes don't keep up. The desperados have purchased a house and so on and so forth. But if you got 7, 8, 9, 10%, that's certainly absolutely plausible. And it will be a good year because interest rates are going to remain low. They maybe go up a little bit. They're already up at 3.25, down from 3 or 2.9 a little while ago. Okay, that has to have some deleterious effects, but certainly nothing major by any stretch of the imagination. We should have close to 6 million units sold this year. It'll be a terrific year.
Wow, and you're talking about just nationally, or are you talking about the Bay Area? Oh, and before you answer, anybody have questions for Dr. Eisenberg? You have to put them in the chat. We have to be able to see them. So there's a Q&A button, I believe, or there's a way to put your thoughts in and we will see them. And so as we keep talking to Dr. Elliot here, if you have questions, he's joining us for just a little bit here. So don't delay, get your questions in and we can answer them.
Look at the IPO market's very strong. The SPAC market's picked up a little bit. It was super strong early in the year. It came down. Now it's back up again. IPO market strong. The bond market strong. I mean, the ability to raise cash, the number of unicorns that are out there is very high. No, the Bay Area will benefit immensely from all of this activity. This has been a super strong IPO year. So, and the stock market's holding up well. Earnings have been very good. So there's no fear. There's always fear, but there's no evidence of a pullback in the stock market either. So job growth is good. Technology firms have done well. The IPO market's strong. Where's the problem here, right? I mean, there's always a fly in somewhere and you miss things, I understand. But I mean, objectively, this looks good. I'm pretty bullish on 22. I really am. Growth will slow from 2021, obviously, because we had the first half a year was over 6%. We're not going to see that kind of numbers, those kind of numbers again. But we should have growth of 3.5% next year. That's terrific. Housing market strong. Job growth is going to be good. Tomorrow, job numbers are going to come out. I fully expect them to be in the neighborhood of 450,000. Be terrific.
Excellent. We're hearing some people say that your volume's pretty low. We can hear you okay, but maybe if you could shout at us in that airport lounge of yours, because everybody loves when you shout at a public place. If you don't mind, Doctor.
Is it better now, or is it worse now?
Better.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Yeah.
Okay, great. Hey, look, guys, we fixed it. So that's all wonderful news. I mean, the interesting part, Elliot, is that people here have kind of an interesting sense. The sellers want to get top dollar, buyers want to get a deal, and it's really tough in this market. I think it's been really tough on our agents. We go to a lot of offices and hear from people. This is hard, buyer fatigue. People are just getting burnt out again. And even with prices retreating a little bit, you say to them, hey, 8-9%, that would be wonderful. But, to 2022, the expectation that things, the market could be robust is really interesting to hear.
There's no inventory. That's the problem. Inventory remains really starved. And there was hope back in Feb, March, April, when we returned to seasonality. You saw inventory rise. And the thought was, is this really going to rise, or is it just seasonality? And it turns out it was just seasonality. And now we see inventory starting to go down again, like it normally does. But the peak in June or July or August, whenever it was, if you compare it to last summer, it's lower. And last summer was lower than the summer before. So we're still on this trend of incredibly tight inventories. So that's why price appreciation is very unlikely to fall substantially. It'll fall some because rates have drifted up a little bit and people who wanted a house got one, but there's still nothing to buy. And builders aren't building nearly enough, especially in Silicon Valley, right? In the San Francisco, San Jose area, the MLS listings area, it's not enough, nothing being built.
Yeah, it's a really tough one. So, we talk about all the time and we see a 2%, like month over month, we saw 2% last, and everybody said, see, it's cooling. And I thought, it's seasonal, but we talk about this all the time. It's just a little bit harder for people out there to get. We have a question from one of our attendees, and it's about interest rates. And we've been wanting to get your thoughts on this. So you did highlight that, they shouldn't be changing rapidly. They will likely change next year, but you said by 1%. And so the question is, will it affect demand? And if that's affordability question, which is already an issue here, right? A challenge, are buyers going to be impacted by that 1%? Is the interest rate really going to drive people away, or is it going to panic people who then rush to get in?
The threat of the interest rate hike drives people into the market to some extent. So there could be some people on the fence that decide to jump in. Sure, that's happened in the past. Rates aren't going to go a lot. They're going to go up, but not a lot. They have to go up because at some point we run out of workers. Unemployment is now at 4.5. It's going to slowly fall lower. More people will enter the labor market, delaying the decline in the interest in unemployment rate. But come next, if not late next year, certainly early 23, the Fed will start to raise rates. There's no doubt. Right now, the fact that the Fed's telling us that they're thinking of raising rates next fall and early 23 has kept the long bond low. So the 10-year Treasury really hasn't done much of anything in the last several months. And as a result, there hasn't been much movement in the 30-year mortgage. It's gone up from the upper 2s to the very low 3s. Maybe it hits mid 3s by next year. I mean, a little increase, but nothing really big. So I don't see that in itself being a major driver, but you look at it collectively, people who want a house got one, rates being a little higher, people now driving to work a little more than they did in the past. And all this puts a mild damper on the demand for housing. So inventory builds maybe a little bit, but it's hard to see price appreciation going to like 2 or 3. That's really remarkably hard to see.
That's an interesting question. One of the things that we talk about a lot at the interest rate is that it's been so low for so long, especially for millennial and other buyers, that a percent doesn't bother them because they don't remember the days of like double digit interest rates and things. So we always wonder if that's going to make a difference. And in your Q3 write-up, you talked about how wealth here has been generated over the last couple of years, and so maybe that's offsetting because people are making a lot of money in the market.
It's certainly a compensating effect. Absolutely. The stock market and the IPOs and the unicorns and so on do well. And it's easy to fundraise. There's tons of, round B and round C and round D and round E capital funding going on. This issue of this notion of, if interest rates go from 3.25 to 3 3/4 and people get upset, we remember rates being much higher. The problem is rates have been coming down since 1980. Pretty much nonstop. So we have no way of testing how resistant people will be when they see really rates rise by 0.5 point or 0.75 point over the next, say, 2 years. I mean, this is a long time to see a little bit of a rate increase, but we will probably see it. We have to, because unemployment will get low again. And then the Fed will have to raise rates at some point down in 23 or something.
Okay. That's an interesting.
The fact that the Fed has begun tapering, and they announced just recently that they were going to start tapering, and that they're going to taper as early. They're going to start in November. They're not going to wait till December. This gave the long-term bonds a happy moment for long bonds, the 10-year Treasury, the 30-year Treasury, and so on, because it says the Fed's aware there's interest, that there's potential inflation out there, and they want to begin to sort of fill their arsenal with weapons with which to combat high inflation if we've got it come next summer. And the awareness that markets have, that the markets are aware that the Fed's going to do that, that in itself kept long-term interest rates from going up. So the Fed's done a masterful job of signaling the market.
That's interesting. And I'm glad you mentioned inflation, because we did just get a question about that, and saying, we keep hearing about inflation. You said in your document it wasn't as bad as we thought it would be or could be. And so that was kind of good news. But in terms of inflation, interest rates, inventory, if we don't keep up with wages, but people are still really gainfully employed here in the area, in terms of, how much of a problem would inflation be to some of the folks looking to be in the market?
Wow, inflation, the fear that if inflation gets bad, the Fed has to start raising rates, right? That's the big deal. And if you don't have a lot of growth, you raise rates, this is a bad thing. You want to have good, robust growth and GDP doing well before you have to raise rates. I just don't see inflation being all that big of a problem in the long run. Over the next 6 months, it could get a little higher the next 2 or 3, maybe in January or February it peaks out, could be, maybe it's already peaked out, but we're somewhere near peak inflation. The question is, how does it decline quickly, or does it decline more at a leisurely pace? And it seems like it's a much more leisurely pace, because the supply chain problems really are serious and the lack of workers is really serious and so on. So the Fed's really trying to thread the needle here and give themselves space to say, look, we're going to start tapering in November. We'll finish tapering in June. Then after that, we will begin to reassess. If inflation's really high and rising, or low and rising fast, they'll have to raise rates sooner. But if they see it declining at that point, even if it's high, they may say, look, it's going away, let's forget about it. So the market, the inflation that we see in 9-10 months from now when tapering is over, that will determine what the Fed does. And the Fed was careful to de-link the tapering of their purchases of treasuries and mortgage-backed securities from a rise in rates. One does not logically lead to the other immediately. There can well be a break between the two. So they've given themselves a lot of flexibility to see what happens. No one knows what will be. I strongly suspect it will go away over time. And 2 years from now, we'll remember, oh yeah, that inflation of 21, 22, it's history now. Because supply chains will get better, workers will return, demand will decline, supply will go up, and these problems will right themselves. But unfortunately, in the midst of the inflation war that we're experiencing, we sometimes lose perspective.
It is a very right now business, right? Because we
Right.
sense that, and you got to talk to your clients right now, and they're interested in right now. And I do like to provide perspective, and we encourage agents to do that as well. But it's pretty tough sometimes when you're right in the middle of it.
But I wouldn't worry too much. I mean, look, the long-term bonds not doing much of anything. 30-year mortgages really aren't doing very much. House price appreciation will come down from the high teens to the low teens or the upper single digits. This is a good market had you not been spoiled by the second half of 2020 and the first 2 or 3 months of 21. You'd be thrilled with this labor, with this housing market.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
just we're distorted.
Yeah, interest rates and housing prices. We're just in this other land. No, for sure. And a reminder to everybody, if you have any questions, we have Dr. Eisenberg for a few more minutes. So if you have any questions, put them in. We're answering them as quickly as we can. But these are good ones, Elliot. They affect all of us, all the counties, all the people represented on this video. This is wonderful stuff. We got a question, and you mentioned it, the global supply chain issue. And, some people have asked about, people, it's cost prohibitive to move. Sometimes we're not seeing, people level up in homes necessarily. I mean, people are going just directly for the forever home because there's no movement and things. Right. And some people are willing to build or add or improve versus buy. Do you think the supply chain, both the cost of labor, the cost of goods, the inability to get goods would affect that? No, now it's just better to go buy?
wow, it's actually better to do nothing right now, quite frankly. People ask me, is it a good time to renovate your house? I say, no, it's really a terrible time to renovate your house because everything's expensive and labor is hard to get. The project will just take a long time. You'll be very inconvenienced and you'll pay more for labor. So if you can at all wait a year or two, by all means, do it then. This is the market signaling to us with high prices for labor and high prices for inputs. Don't do it. So if you can all have any flexibility, I would strongly recommend waiting. I know I've suffered the consequences of doing something more quickly. I changed the windows in my apartment from regular windows to hurricane windows. The project was supposed to be done 5 months ago. It's still ongoing. My house is a job site. It's awful.
Oh no, Elliot did the windows.
So don't. I would. If you have to do it, do it. If you can wait. If you can do a piece of it that's really important and then put the rest off for later, do that. It's like now is also not the great time to buy a car for the same reason. There's very limited supply. They're very expensive. You don't get a lot of choice. Wait. Sometimes you can't.
Oh.
But if you can wait, do it.
I wonder if that'll have an effect. We do have a question, Elliot, on during the pandemic, we saw the common interest condo townhome market really suffer as people looked for space and things. You had some thoughts on whether that's kind of a long-term thing here in the Bay Area. Partly it's something like that's all that's being built right now by and large. So that's one issue. But, we have a question here about, with the tech hubs and work remote, do you have thoughts on what the condo townhome market versus the single family market would be based on our workforce? And
in the long run, these markets have to sort of balance themselves out, right? They can't be vast disparities between them for long periods. In the short run, sure, one can vastly outperform the other, but eventually they are competitive. Yeah, if you can't afford a house, you buy a condo. If you want to be downtown, you buy a house, and so on. In the aftermath of COVID, my gosh, the single family detached house was by far the prime property to have. But over time, as we return to a more normal semblance of life, a return to normal or a new post-COVID normal, demand for other types of structures will increase necessarily. Renters, it's hard to find a house to live. People rent multifamily generally. Condos become more appealing as people go to work more often. We're seeing this slowly happen. It will never return to what it was. Not all 100% of us are going to be working in the office. That's never going to happen. The Mondays and Fridays are going to be working from home. That's in a lot of cases. But people will go back, and the desire to live in a city. That said, I've thought about this more actually. I tend to think that older people may be a little more reluctant to move downtown because they're maybe a little more nervous about COVID. People who don't have to go into work at all, people who can work remotely 5 days a week, they might say, I'm not going to live downtown. I'm going to stay in my new home that I purchased or whatever it is further away. So there'll be some demographic changes. Youngsters are really going to want to be in the city and hang out with other ones, do cool things, and so on.
You're saying most of us are in the suburbs to stay, huh? Well,
there'll be slightly more desire to stay in the suburbs if you don't travel to work or if you're older. I think that's a little bit.
That's really interesting. Listen, I know you have to get on your way. We've had a couple of questions come in. And one of the things that we do videos sometimes without you, we take your work, thank you, and make videos, Mark and I, at the end of the quarter. And one of the things that I shared last time was that you said it's a great time to buy. And we have some questions here that says, what do you tell your buyers and sellers? These are people actively trying to get listings, working really hard on those buyers. Elliot, just in terms of going into the next year, what do you tell these good people to talk to their clients about the housing market? I mean, do you have anything that you would feel very confident that they could tell them?
If you're a buyer, I'd say buy the house. This notion of, I'm going to wait until the market crashes or declines. Look, I know it happened 12 years ago, but that was a very unusual event. And Dodd-Frank has been passed since then, and the world's a very different lending place than it was. 12 years ago, it was a credit bubble that led to a housing bubble that led to a housing collapse. Now the people who are buying these houses have the money and they can afford to purchase the unit as long as they keep their job. So there's no bubble-icious thing going on right now. I'd say, hey, if you need a house because you got married or you have kids or whatever it is, go ahead and do it. Don't wait. Waiting just means you're a day older, at least age in a nicer place, age in a place that fulfills your needs as a family, a household, or maybe, you've gotten divorced, move, get a place that fits your smaller needs. And as the case may be, your kids moved in, your kids move out. I would say get on with the show and not wait. This notion of I can time the housing market, or I'll wait for it to do something. Look, you can't time the housing market, the bond market, the stock market. I don't even try. And over time, houses do appreciate. Had you bought a house in 2008, now you'd be ahead of the game in almost all cases. Even if you bought it at the peak of the housing boom in 2006, there are very few places in the country you'd be underwater on. Okay, it's a long time, I admit, but that's a very unusual circumstance. So to put your life on hold on the hope that prices will decline, and even if they decline, okay, it's 1, 2, 3, or 4%. It's not enough to alter the calculus of the decision very much either.
No, that's great advice. I mean, we're always looking for those gems, Elliot, to tell our clients and talk to people about and be really frank about it. So, we really appreciate that.
And on the flip side, as a seller, it's sure your house could appreciate 10% next year. Who knows? But do you really want to have a vacant house? Is that what you want as a seller? No, you want to get on with your life. You want to buy the house that you want to buy in the new location that you want to get to. So it's, if you could rent your house out, conceivably it's a good idea. Wait a year, make more money, sure. But that's complicated too. It's not free. You got to pay taxes. Your taxes are going to rise because you aren't living in the house anymore, and on and on and on and on. So I'm generally of the belief of get on with your life and do your thing.
That's exciting. That's exciting for all of us, and associated with real estate to hear. 2022 should be really interesting. I know you have to go. Oh, did you hear that, guys? He said it'll be a good year. I didn't want to cut you off, but anyway, I know you have to run.
Job growth should be good. It really should be. The stimmy money checks ended. Moratoria ended on evictions, forbearance ended, unemployment ended. People will return. That's going to help the economy spend money and so on. These may not be marginal home buyers, they'll be renters, but nonetheless, it boosts spending and helps the economy. And inventory building will go on over the course of 22 because inventories were pushed down dramatically. So that should also help. So 2022 is shaping up to be a good year.
That's exciting. Well, we heard it here from you. They take it better. That's awesome to hear. We are really excited about it. We know you have to run and catch a plane. We would hate for you to miss your ride home. But we thank you for joining us. And I will, we're going to summarize. We're going to summarize some of the things that you said. We're going to get people the information on how to talk to you every day, or at least hear from you every day. I don't want people calling you. That is not the idea. But we'll share how people get, in touch and hear from you. And we'll, look forward to your next update, which we will bring back some highlights and get questions and things from you. You're a big hit around here, Elliot. We really appreciate you joining us today, and safe travels.
It's a pleasure being on. Thank you very, very much. I look forward to next time already.
Thanks. Great. Well, Mark, we did it. He made it. Airports, like Mark said, what could go wrong? We made it.
Possibly go wrong with this. Fabulous. And good news from the good doctor, as I said before, that next year looks to be strong.
Well, the best news would be that there's some inventory, right? And so we all thrive on transactions, whether you're selling a home or whether you're helping people buy a home. The important part is that there are homes available. And so that's still a concern. Clearly, he was talking about inventory. It looked like it was perking up there for a minute, but then we just saw that it was, as he said, seasonal. And so we're back down to very, very low inventory. But, it's just one of those things where, we're getting these questions about, do you wait? Do you do things? And I love when he can answer those questions. Clearly we cannot, but what he was saying was it's a great time to get in there. I have talked to Elliot before about seasonal type listings because, we got in the chat a few questions about, do you wait or do you do it now? And he was talking about how later in the year you have more competition. But maybe you have more eyeballs, so more buyers. But at this point, you could be really one of the few homes listed in any given neighborhood, very few in zip codes. And so it depends if you, have a well-priced home and it's it's valuable to somebody. There's not really a bad time because we're still seeing those prices. And the data is very young. It's only the 4th of the month, Mark, but I'll tell you, we did see some increases in Santa Clara and San Mateo counties. And so in different cities, we're seeing some price appreciation, even at this point in the year. So Anyway, oh,
Yeah,
spoiler
those will be,
alert.
I know you're still on a little bit of high here, aren't you?
Oh, well, when you talk economics with Dr. Elliot Eisenberg, what are you going to say? So
Yeah,
before we go and summarize, what is it? So how do we get in touch with him? You text bow
yeah, that's
tie
the key
to?
thing. Oh, I thought you knew that answer. Tom, come on board here with us, if you could. While Tom's coming on board, yes, we did record this. We are recording this. It will be on our YouTube channel probably later this evening, if not tomorrow morning. So tell a friend, as they say. And so, Michelle, encouraging news while we get that phone number. I'm sure I'll have Miranda text it to me, that text number.
I got it. 22828.
228. So bow tie.
Bow
So
tie. He's the bow tie economist.
tie.
So they're bow tie.
Yeah.
22828, and you can get just a few words from him daily. It's not always about the economy, but it has something to do with economics, and it's really fun and really lively, and I just always enjoy seeing it. And so he's a very witty guy, that Elliot Eisenberg. So text bow tie 22828.
Cool. Were there any questions that maybe we didn't get to that we can touch upon that came out?
Well, I'd love to just talk a little bit about what he said and some of the things that are in his Q3 document, Mark, because I mean, with 25 minutes or so, we can't really cover everything we would have all wanted to cover. We got really great questions. Thanks everybody for participating.
I know, great job there, folks.
Yeah, I love it. That's why he likes hanging out with us. We ask good questions and we have great people. I just, I mean, I think one of the interesting parts is he likes to differentiate, and he talks about in his Q3 summary that one of the things that changes or distinguishes the Bay Area is the technology, right?
Yep.
And the work from home. So there are not all industries can, pack it up and start working from anywhere, but we are seeing that. And a lot of what we're seeing is that people moved, but they didn't go far. Right. And so there was, this flight, and we got some questions on this, what happened with the great, migration. And yes, California lost some folks, but here in the Bay Area, we saw a lot of people move just south or east. I mean, look at your Santa Cruz County that had, prices and sale to list price ratios we've never seen before. We saw a lot of price appreciation in Monterey, San Benito, where Hollister is, as well as Santa Cruz. So, we did see people move, but what
Not
Elliot
very far.
what Elliot
I
was
can
saying
still
was
get to the office if I need to.
exactly what he was saying, and he was calling it, oh my gosh, what did he call it? It was so great. I'm going to try to get it from my notes here. He called it the great sorting followed the great lockdown. And so he was just talking about work from home being a permanent part of Bay Area culture, where you can still make it to the office for the big meetings, where you still can see clients if you needed to, and so on and so forth. And so people made prices rise by just demand in some of these counties. And he talks about that being unique to the Bay Area, first of all. And he said that, we should continue to see that because household net worth, if I can quote, increased for a variety of reasons. And that should, partly go to real estate. So it was a really interesting concept, Mark, that it's not just the pandemic. It's now I guess we're still in it. But, as we come out of the pandemic and seeing people's real change in terms of their tastes, their opportunities, and wealth, which is what you need to be able to buy homes here in this area.
New behaviors, new lifestyles, sometimes even as well. But we have read where, some of those folks that left, they missed their favorite barista, so they're coming back, kind of stuff, and I know even at our office, there are people that want to get back and get together again, right? It's been okay Zooming for the last 18 months, but boy, it would be fun to get together as a team, kind of stuff as well. So, it keeps changing. He said it will never go back to what it was, but still a very positive outlook for our region in particular.
Well, as long as demand, right? Yeah. So people with sellers, you say, when's a good time? And he basically said, whenever you want to move, get on with life. I love that guy for saying things like that. But he was just talking about, the market surprise and delighting despite tight inventories. And so he called the price appreciation staggering. And so it's just very unlike other places. And so then you say, is this going to stop? And that's the big question. I don't want to buy at the peak. I don't want to buy at the top. And what he was saying is there's no reason to expect, he said, single that, what did he say, 8 to 10% next year. He wouldn't be shocked that you could get that. And if you think about what that means on these, price points, that could be a really good thing. And so in terms of setting expectation for your clients, Mark, that's what we do a lot, right? We go out and it's not good or bad, it's just what it is. And it's just making sure you have shared expectations in terms of what housing could do. So it's really interesting to hear from him that with the generated wealth, we will see some of that going back into the real estate market, and that that inflation and some of these other kind of global economic issues won't necessarily affect us so much because of where we are and generally what people are doing here in the area. Although I have to tell you, in the Q3 document, and I'll have to tell you guys where to find it, because he provides this every quarter, and so this regional economic overview. One of the things he was mentioning was that as we kind of come out of the pandemic and as people start to feel more comfortable, then there will be some money that goes to spending, and we're already seeing that, right? Get your holiday gifts early. The shifts in terms of housing may not be the number one priority as when we were here and looking at these four walls every day and saying, boy, I'd love some more space. As we get out, as we move on, you might see, trips and travel and just goods being bought and sold. Although on his way out, he said that's a good thing for the economy, and therefore it's a good thing for jobs, and therefore it's a good thing for the regional economics. And so I did want to point that out. I think a great point that he made in his document was that even if some money moves away from real estate, it should still be, in terms of price appreciation, a pretty good year.
Right. And he was encouraging on the supply chain as well, that it will come back, and there will be some shortages right now. I mean, a very realistic look at it all. But he gave us a very clear, realistic look for 2021, and as you mentioned, he nailed it. He really was on the spot with this, these topics, we shall say. So that's why it's nice to hear he's feeling good about 2022 as well.
Maybe he has travel euphoria. When you're in an airport and trying to go somewhere. Maybe
it's that air. It's that piped in air. Right. Got little endorphins inside of it.
In the Delta Club, feeling good about things.
I've got a feeling Dr. Eisenberg is a fun guy wherever he goes.
Oh, absolutely. And that's how much we love it. We have questions coming in about some issues with the bow tie 22828. Our good buddy Tom there did put in a link so you can go to his website, and that's how you get there. So yeah, if you guys want to check that out, we have Tom working the chat room. Thanks so much, Tom, and making sure you guys get connected to Dr. Eisenberg. Now, let's talk about where they get his information, right? So you can text Bowtie 22828 and go on his website and get connected with him there. But we do also provide all of this information quarterly on the MLSListings.com website. So it's in the media center. Now that's not pro, that's MLSListings.com media center. And there you'll see all of his write-ups. They are lengthy and wonderful. And very detailed. And so if you are interested in reading some of this for yourself, I'm jumping around pulling things out. But guys, it's all there. It has been there for a few weeks now. So do check it out.
And if you're, playing the social media realm, folks, go to our Facebook page, subscribe, right? Become a follower of the MLS Listings Facebook page, because those reports do get links put on social media as well. So lots of different ways to get to this, valuable, talk about valuable information, a real benefit for our MLS Listings members. Hey, Michelle, we're going to go into the studio here just in a couple of days. You gave them a little teaser just a few minutes ago about the local marketplace. anymore.
What, that
Is
wasn't
there anything
enough?
else you can tell us?
No, I just, it's just a really interesting thing to be looking at the data. As you guys know, at the first of the month, we wait for data to normalize, what we call normalize, because it settles, right? You put in your solds and we don't want to not capture those. And so we
Right.
give it a few days to make sure everybody can get their information in and we get a better view of the market. And so we're at this point watching and seeing, but we
Okay.
did see price appreciation, and it goes really well along with what he is saying about, this would be the time of year that you would not be unsurprised if I came to your office or I came on these videos and said, hey, prices are declining. You would not be surprised, but
Right.
they're not necessarily. It really depends on where you are.
But
And we saw,
we've had that seasonal, late fall jump for how many years now?
we have in Santa Clara County, we've seen it at least since 2015,
Right.
where that September to October, right? But where we see that little bit of a jump, and so now it's a thing. Mark wanted to name it.
It's a thing. I'm still working on the name. Give me time.
It's just something that happens. But it goes along with what Elliot was saying about just some of the appreciation of prices over time. It's just hard to think that supply will ever catch up with demand. I mean,
Right.
People wanting more space, looking for a different space, a better space, a bigger space, better schools, looking to get out of the area, looking to get into the area. I mean, we have a lot of first-time buyers trying to get in this market. And so he was talking about how the general wealth, an increase in wealth will help that. And he said, even as you divert from, housing to other goods and services, the expectation of, low double digit return could be really exciting. It matches completely with the data that we're seeing. Still high sale to list price ratios. Haven't seen
Right.
these type of sale to list price ratios since 2018. And then on the supply side, just seeing record low inventory. Not unusual for this time of year, where you see new listings and closed sales start to decline. Not unusual, but we still saw fabulous September. We saw very strong October. We'll be, in the studio recording to talk about all of those different factors: the sales cycle, the sale to list price ratio, and median prices. So hopefully people will tune in to see that local market. He talked big, right?
Yeah.
He talked macro. Yeah, big picture. But we're going to talk detail next week. Those should be out by the end of next week sometime.
We're bringing it down to Willow Glen, ladies and gentlemen.
No, we're not. That's not true.
No, I shouldn't say that, right? City level, though. You're gonna give us information on the city level, okay? So Monte Sereno.
Yes, we will have data on Monte Sereno.
And that's where the YouTube channel kicks in, Michelle. So absolutely. For you, if you haven't gone there yet, if you haven't subscribed yet, get to YouTube, go to MLS Listings, subscribe to our site. So as soon as those reports get posted, as soon as those videos get posted up, you get a notification. You can go watch them before all your friends do. This video will be there. Those videos will be there. Hey, and while you're over there, check out the vendor spotlights as well. Great place to find those. Our pro support site. If you go to the homepage of MLS Listings, up in the upper right-hand corner of every single page is that pro support link. And Michelle, up there, you can find out about Symbium. You can find about our good friend Dave Scalora. Spent some time with the folks at Realists. Spent some time with the folks at eProperty Watch. Some great updates about what's going on in those tools as well. And that's those vendor spotlights out there. Michelle, how do you want to close this out? Are you still riding the econ high?
I'll ride it all day, Mark. I'll ride it all day. This is really, I love to hear what he has thoughts on and how he puts it in perspective. We're all trying to talk to clients about what's going on out there. And so this is a really great way to kind of get some of those ideas in your head. And you think, someone asks you a question, you think, how does interest rates going to affect? Well, here's some really great points that he made on how interest rates might affect the local housing market. Or, when you talk about inventory, the connections, or even just, in some of the other things like, the employment rate.
That thing.
It's coming to me. But how employment and some of these wage increases or decreases really affect things, inflation. Those all seem really abstract, but they have a lot to do with how people buy and sell homes here locally, and who's here and who's buying. So those are all really important things. I love when Elliot comes to tell us these things. How do you not get excited about having him there to share all these insights with us?
Well, and that's absolutely the reason we record these. He's got so much information. It comes at you so quickly. Once again, head back over. We're going to put the emails out. We're going to put the banners up and things like that. Go re-watch what we just saw and get that information about what he believes is going to happen with the interest rates over 2022 and into 2023. Valuable information for your clients.
Interest rates, supply chains, and unfortunately, if you're watching this on, recorded, then you can't ask the questions, but your good neighbors and friends asked some really great questions. So again, thank you guys for your participation. It was really great. And if you like asking questions,
we have something for you.
Yeah, we're going to be doing so. I don't know if you have heard of office hours, but we have an office hours where instead of talking at you, we show up and listen and answer questions. And so that will be, the date is, Mark?
The date is Thursday, November 18th at 1 o'clock. And you guys bring guests. I'm going to be there this time, by the way. I promise I will show up. But you guys, you had Jeffrey Lambrex, our product manager.
Yes, Matrix, right? the guru. I call him Matrix Guru.
And you actually have people on call, right? You got Robert Bustamante. If a rules questions come, somebody get Robert in here, right? That kind of stuff. So all your cast of characters, as they say at the MLS, are available. And as you say, Michelle, we spend a lot of time talking to everyone else. This is a great time for us to just sit back, bring those questions on anything, listing management, photo rules, AccuList, absolutely, what's going on over at AccuList. Any topic you want to talk about relating to the MLS, we're ready to address it.
There weren't any questions about stats or data, so I don't want to scare people off, because I don't want people to think, oh no, this lady's going to talk about the median again. Let's all not go. But it's not that at all. There weren't stats questions. There were some really great questions about Matrix that Jeffrey was able to jump in and answer. We had some of our customer support team. Stacy joined us to answer questions about. There was some questions. Can you go over Symbiom again? And so it was really great, and we always try to answer as many questions as we can. So if you have questions about MLS products, services, anything of that nature, you can ask stats, or maybe we could do like a mini recap of this session.
Absolutely.
But the idea is, we answer questions, we listen to you. It is not recorded. It is very
that's
casual.
The key thing right there.
Not recorded. It's just a casual environment to come in, ask some questions, or even just listen to other people ask questions. So we hope you'll join us. That date again, Mark?
That date is Thursday, November 18th at 1 p.m. It's scheduled for an hour. We wind up an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and 30 minutes, however, till the last guy leaves, we're there, kind of stuff. So
last person. Thank you. Yes, we will be. Person.
Excuse me. I was using the bigger general guy thing.
No problem.
Hey, Michelle.
So we'll help see you guys. This was a great time, Mark.
I always get excited when you tell me we can get Dr. Eisenberg. He's coming to town. We caught him in an airport, but he made it happen. Michelle, you and Tom, more you than Tom probably, made this happen. Just kidding, Tom. So, hey, folks, thank you for being with us for another MLS Listings Live. I think the next time we're going to come at you is in January. We've got a big lineup, as they say, getting ready for next year. But looking forward to seeing it at office hours here on November 18th at 1 o'clock. So watch the banner on the Pro homepage. Michelle, thanks for being with us.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Make sure to check out our Pro support page for additional videos on a full range of topics. And don't forget to click that subscribe button on our MLS Listings YouTube page.